I have drawn on here a koi fish, and I know it's going to be kind of hard to see, but I have used a Statler Super Soft coloring pencil on my Nara paper. I forget the weight of this one, but it's pretty light, so this is kind of an experiment. My plan is for the koi fish to be splashing in the water, so there'll be water coming up around the edges and a little maybe white foam for the water waves, that kind of thing that floats in that you get in little ponds and stuff. More on the abstract side with a few details to draw the eye in. So I currently just have it taped down to an old board that was from a cabinet that was being thrown away. I like to use a really solid surface that has no texture underneath it, so I don't pick up anything in my painting, as well as I use these from time to time to mount my art onto. Interestingly enough, this will actually wipe off because I have treated the surface underneath with what do you call that? Kills paint. So it also can be used to create art onto. So anyway, I'm just going to spray that and wipe it off. So there we have that. So I am going to use my paper towel, and I'm going to I already cleaned my surface, but I'm going to show you again how I clean that. And I may use this paper towel for some texture at some point, maybe in the water or on the koi to show texture, the scales of the fish. I'm going to use the T-Rex alcohol inks. I'm going to use the Space Black, the Bellini Orange, and the Shiraz Red. So the black I'm going to use, I think, last in certain places, because I don't want it mixing with these two colors. And I am going to try to keep it so that there's still white showing on the top of this fish. And I'll show you a photo of the inspiration behind this this koi. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to drop, say, a little bit of this ink. The nice thing is it doesn't come out super fast, so I can just drop a little here, drop a little here, maybe a little over here, and then I'm going to use my mix of 91% isopropyl alcohol, and I have a little bit of extra. I've added water to it, so it probably it's only got about not even 0.2% of water added into this alcohol, and that was when it was completely filled. I do that because it allows for more playtime. Okay. So I'm going to just spill this out into this ink. And put a little here. I try not to spill it right into it because I want to be able to play with the ink by allowing it to move kind of slow and more organic looks than what you might get with a paintbrush or if you blew on it. So, you could use a hair dryer or, you know, whatever else you might want. I'm going to actually come in and pick up some of this ink with my paintbrush. I have these long handled paintbrushes that I use. This is Artist Oil Brush. It's a round Winsor Newton. I know some of you artists out there are going to cringe because I'm using an oil brush, but I find it easier to clean and get the color out than using a standard brush that might then transfer more colors to my art. This is a number 3 round, and it's got the very nice long handle, so it allows me to just kind of move it without it being too contrived. So I can just, because I have the shakes really bad due to rheumatoid arthritis, I've learned to incorporate that into my art. It used to be something that I despised, but now I just kind of embrace it and find that I don't worry about it too much, because it's my signature. You can notice it in my work. So anyway, enough about that. So I want to try to keep some of these areas here a little bit brighter, and go back in and add a little bit more, and add that texture in when I'm coming back in with my brush. So it kind of gives a little bit more texture, not so much the scale texture that you would see, but it gives it just a very organic feel, and allows you to kind of lighten or darken, and you can create darker areas, lighter areas, as you go in and you just lift in and out some of the inks. So I'm just tapping. I'm not stroking the paint on. None of the inks have that paintbrush effect. I'm just dropping it. So I'm trying to stay within the lines that I drew, which I know it's very hard for you to see. And even if I bring it up to you, you wouldn't be able to see my lines. They're very lightly drawn. I can barely see them. But this gives you some idea of what is happening here. So I'm gonna come in here and put a little bit more. I don't want these, I want these to kind of not have any really straight edges. If you look at koi fish, their color isn't really straight. It's kind of a, like God just took a paintbrush and flung paint at these fish. That's kind of how the colors, there's little spots and big spots, and nothing, you know, that is too, like, perfect. The edges are not soft, they're not hard, they're just very organic, which makes for a really lovely subject to paint. So now I'm going to go in with the Bellini Orange, and again, these are T-Rex inks. You can buy the full set on Amazon, which is where I got mine originally, and I haven't used them a whole lot, but I find the inks are quite vibrant and very, the set that I have plays well with each other. So I really like that. Okay, so I'll come back in, and again, just start moving. And on this yellow, I did not add any alcohol because I really want to keep that brightness of the color and not really have any, what is the word that I want? I want this color to be kind of a pure yellow, because I'm going to come back in and mix this red and this yellow, or orange I should say, to get an even deeper orange here in just a bit. So as you can see, I'm just working this color into some areas, not really just tapping, no strokes of color, just tapping to keep the texture and to keep it kind of fluid. And I'm going to start working in that color to some of its neighbors, but don't forget, keep some of that white in there. Don't allow that white to get all covered up, because while there are some koi that have darker skin, is that the word we want? This one is purposefully exposing the white underbelly, or the white of the skin and whatnot, because we're going to put some blue in for the water effect that I want to try. And so I don't want too many things to compete with its color. And the nice thing about doing it on this Nara paper is that I can go back in and remove sections that I don't like. Like right now, I'm not happy with the fact that this is so close together that there's no white in here. So I can always go back in with my clean paintbrush and just come out to the outside and begin to wipe back, so that I get a little bit more of a fade between colors. And if I don't like it, and by the way, this is a puppy pad that I work on. It just helps to keep the ink from spilling over onto my desk area. So I'm just lifting some of this out because I'm not quite happy with how that was looking. It was just looking too static to me, like everything was the same. So I'm just going to go back in here and kind of mix that up a little bit, try to see what I can do. I'm liking how this is looking right now. This little cloudy, like water is flowing over on top. So I'm really, really pleased with how that is shaping up right there. And again, I'm going to do the same with these hard lines that appeared. I'm just not happy with that. So if you're not happy with something, that's the fun part of using alcohol ink, is you can go back in and you can lighten, you can darken, you can remove it, you can pretty much do anything that you want with it. And if I were to set this down and walk away and come back, 3-4 days later, I could still remove any of the ink that's on here. So I'm not beholden to whatever is on here or risk having to redo it because I didn't like how it was turning out. So, or like some paintings just hit the garbage. Let's be honest. They're not always the ones that you end up seeing, you know, so we don't always keep those. Sometimes those just get thrown away, which, you know, I've got a few hidden in the back of my closet that I should probably just pitch, but I keep thinking to myself, oh, I could just probably repaint over that, because, you know, who wants to throw away canvases and other stuff. It's just, nobody likes to waste product, especially these days where everything is so much more expensive, and things just keep going up. So anyway, now I'm just working on, you know, kind of giving some texture to some of these outer lines that I have in the painting, and just smushing it around a little bit and going back through with my brush, just tapping, almost in a scale type pattern. Not too worried about where the color is now located, because I'm really liking how this looks. What I want is to just go back into some of these and lift out a little bit more. And I have this little cup of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. I use 91 and 99. Sometimes I water it down, just depends on what I'm doing. And then I can go back in here with these, with my brush, and just kind of, so once I've lifted out some of the colors that I want, I can just tap, 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 and it just makes for an interesting texture, and it shows some of that white that we talk about. So when I go in and I add this black in a few places, it won't mix so much with the color next to it, because I'm going to put it in more like a dry brush effect. I'll let some of these kind of blend, so we have a little bit of the colors mixing together right next to each other here. And because these two play well on the color scale, on the color wheel, we don't have to worry that we're going to end up with some muddy brownish color. We're just going to have this beautiful mix of colors that play well together. So I'm just going to keep tapping that and getting that where I want it to go. Keeping in mind I've got some fins coming out around here, and I've got some spots where I want it to kind of go down to the belly area, but I want it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the yellow in here, in this area. It's not yellow, I keep calling it yellow. It's a Bellini orange, but it has, to me, it's got more of a yellow color to it. So anyway, and yeah, this is a ratty brush. It's got bristles that are sticking up, and that kind of adds to the character of where I dab. So I don't worry about it too much. If I'm doing some kind of a creature that would have a very smooth skin, or what do you call it, a fur or something like that, then I would totally use a different brush, and I have like 1,000 different brushes, it seems like. But these are this works for this particular painting style. So put a little drop here. Now here we're getting down around the eye. So I just keep doing that. So now I'm gonna add in a little bit more, little dot of yellow in there. Tap that in. Okay, and so that's kind of where I'm leaving that for the moment. I might change it up some more and add some more colors in. I don't have a whole lot of time left on my recording, but I did want to get to some of the black, so I'm just going to put a little drop of black right there, one there, some in here. I'm being very judicious with this black. Like I said, I don't want it to go everywhere, just a few places. So now I'm going to come back in with my brush and just kind of give that some organic brush strokes to kind of, and I'm cautious about where it's at, and I'm going to have to come back in here in a bit and take out some of the color in here because I chewed up all my white, so that's never, in this case, not what I want to do, not when that's part of my painting. I need that white. So I'm going to come in here with a little bit of that black. Just scribble in some of that. Alright, so now I am going to do a few little drops here of the fins, and I am going to use that blowing technique, and I have a straw for that. Some yellow in here. Okay. And I just come in and kind of tap some of that color up here. So I kind of want it to fade a little bit. I don't want too much of that. Because that could just be a reflection of the other side, over on this side where I'm going to put some more. And you'll see I haven't done the eyes and I haven't done the rounded part of the mouth yet, which I will do. Those will be added here in just a little bit. Let's see, I'm going to go in here and add that. Red and a little drop of the orange, and I'm going to I'm not too worried if it went off because, like I said, it just adds to the photo or the image. And let's go back in there with a little bit of that. I'm going to draw it back towards me. And just blow with my mouth. And use my handy dandy paper towel to kind of soak up some of that I want it to be a little bit less stringy and wispy. I just kind of, I want just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same on this little one right here. And that. Use my finger a little bit there to get that. Okay, and then so I know that was kind of off camera and you couldn't really see me blowing, but it was blowing. And again, I'm going to come in with a little bit and just take out some of that color. I'm not worried if I am marking into the paper or anything like that, because it's not as important at this point. I want kind of a watery effect. So it looks like I'm looking down through the water at my koi fish. So now I'm going to go in with my Bria Reese Lake Blue alcohol ink, and I'm going to clean off that brush just a little bit, because here I am going to go and apply the ink directly to my paintbrush. And here we go. So there's that. And now I'm going to come and just do these streaks right over the tops. So I want it to have it feel like the water is splashing up and out from underneath. My camera keeps cutting off because apparently it's only letting me record in 5-minute increments for some reason. Not too sure what's going on there, but wanted to show you. I took this brush. It is a wash brush, basically a size. It's a 1 inch, and I put first I soaked it in my isopropyl alcohol. Then I put stripes of my color down, and then using it in this manner, swished through. So I would do like so, pressing down, and this kind of gives me those lines, like the veining that you see in the fins on fish. So I just kind of did it in this way, right over what I did before. And then I did the same thing with the water splashes. Now here's where I'm going to come in to make it more watery. I have my 99%, which means it dries super fast, in a fine mist sprayer, and I'm going to cover part of my image so that I can come in with my fine mist sprayer and hit that white. and a little bit of my fin, so it looks like kind of foam. And then I'm going to do the same again here. Okay, and I'm gonna let that dry because I overshot a little bit and don't want a watery mess, but it does lend itself a bit to that whole aspect of water bubbles and splashing and all of that. And if you've ever visited someone who has a koi fish pond, they're just stunning. And there's one over in a park here where I like to take my granddaughter, and they have koi fish, and she always, when she was little, she was always so excited to see all the koi fish. So there's that, and I'm going to do a little bit more here where that fin is at, and I'm going to kind of move this around so that I can protect the body some, and do, that was too much and too close. See how you could mess it up, but you know, the way I look at it is you're not really seeing that, so that's okay. Just, you know, do your best and enjoy the process, and that's that. And then I'll go in with my marker and my alcohol ink markers. Probably use my oil-based markers that I have by Pintar. They're Japanese ink, and these are phenomenal. They have a large number of colors in each box, so I will probably go back in and highlight the areas that need to be highlighted, and if I can get it to keep recording, I will keep recording, or you will see the finished product when I'm finished. Okay. This is just my blending pen. It allows me to go in and lift out in a few places that I want to lift out some color, so I can get back to some whites. I can do a really nice job of getting some of that to turn back to white. And so, yeah. I want some white up in here. This just got... So I think I have fixed my issues with the video camera. So we're going to try to pick up where we left off on the koi fish. Show you kind of where I'm at with it right now. You can see there's a lot of texture and a lot of movement. So in some of these spots I might go back in with my oil markers, or with my oh gosh, what are they called again? I always forget what they're called. But you can use them over the alcohol ink, and it won't interfere with the inks. So, and just for some additional highlights and stuff. So now you can see here I have the mouth area and the eyes, and then I want to come in and put back the bones of the fins so that you see that. I really like the splash effect, but I may still come back in and do some really targeted areas and change the water some with a different color so it's not so flat. But this is kind of how it's looking so far. I know it seems like a lot of color and you really have no outline or, you know, shape, but keep in mind this is meant to be more abstract, so I don't want to have too much detail, but just enough for you to kind of make out what you're seeing. Okay, so I have gone in and added a bit of this watercolor. It's not really watercolor, it's a water-based ink by Tombow. See if I can get that to actually show up. It's Tombow. Can't quite there. Oh, Tombow. And this is a black, and it has two different tip ends. This one and this more paintbrush style. So I've gone in and used the tip here in these areas with this Tombow and just kind of scumbled in some darker edges with this watercolor. And if you notice, it does not affect the alcohol ink underneath, which is nice, because then if I want to, I can come in with, you know, any finger or whatever, and it doesn't smudge it. And I can come in with my blending pen. I use the smaller fine tip end, and I can come in like I'm doing here and lift out some of the color. I just want more of a gray, and so you can lift out the ink with it all the way back to the paper like I did here on the tail. I started taking out and wiping it off. I can take it out and wipe it off. And as you can see, it takes it completely out. And what you see right there is my pencil marking from where I had originally put in. So now I thought, well, let me just try to go through with this and make those ribs that I talked about and see how that looks using the blender pen. And I like that. So I think I'm going to come in here and do a couple more and just lightly try to come in without taking out too much. Just want to add a little something. And then I'm also going to come in and these splashes in some areas. I'm not thrilled with the hard edges I'm having. So I'd like to take this blender and leaving the ink on it, just kind of soften the edges with it some. Just gently going in and moving that water so that there's not so much hard edge and it has a softer appearance. I'm sorry I'm holding this, but I'm holding it because I'm trying to get close enough to it that you can actually see what's taking place here, unlike when I have it up on the stand and it seems a bit further away. So I'm trying to keep myself cognizant of that and come in and make some adjustments. So here's another place. I'm going to take that out because the top ridge of the koi becomes very narrow where it bends. So I'm going to come in and just do a little bit more spreading and softening of that blue. Again, not too worried. It's okay if the colors pick up in the water, because the water will reflect and cast light when a fin like this one is under the water. So it's my distant fin, so I want it to have more of that modeled, far off view. Whereas this one up here I have real problems with, because I'd like to see it have a bit more definition so that you can see that it's a fin. So I will come in here and work on taking out some of this and giving some shape. So I'll take that and wipe away. Now this has blending solution, not isopropyl alcohol. So the blending solution, it's different. It's got like glycerin and I'm not sure what all else next to the alcohol, but it keeps it from making the ink move like it did up here. So you don't have all the ink doesn't push back against it. It makes it nice for, like it says, blending, and you can use it to push the ink, and also for cleaning up your paper, which I find to be really nice. So let's see if this one is in the forefront, then it is going to have more of its fin exposed, but it's not going to look as lopsided as this one does. So I'm going to come in and take some of this out, and sorry for the squeaky noise, but when you're working on this synthetic paper, it's just what happens. You get that that dry erase sound. So I've cleaned that up some right through there, and I'm gonna make this, because the fin is not that wide. So I think I'm gonna take some more of that out right through there, and probably come back in with some of this gray and blue and just kind of let that mix so it's a little more just soft, all the way up the paper like that. So here I'm going to come back and I'm going to take out this, and again just going to keep working off this. And the nice thing is I can always draw that back in. I can just come in with my color and use the blending solution to reuse the color I already have, and see if I am liking the placement and how that looks. And I'm not totally thrilled, but I'm going to keep working with it and see what happens here, because that's the whole point to making art, is just to enjoy the process and kind of play with it and see where it takes you. So I'm going to put you back up on the stand for a few minutes, and I'm going to continue working on this, and we'll see how it develops. All right, so I want to zoom in, if it will let me. I don't think it will, no. So I'm going to try to pull you over a little bit so you can see how this is looking. And I want to see, I've got this. Here we get this a little bit of a swipe up here. And this is just some of my dirty isopropyl alcohol water, and it's got a mix of colors in here, and I'm just gonna kind of lay this in, like just where the white is at in some places, just to bring more color into the piece, so it doesn't look as yeah, what's the word I want? Static. I want some of this blue to come out here and not be so spiky. So I'm just gonna lightly brush this, and because I have a little bit of water in that, I'm not getting as much pullback. I don't know what else to call it. There's the ink doesn't really move the way it does when it's just pure alcohol. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to think and talk at the same time. So there we go. Do the same over here. This is riot of color. Now, keep in mind there's going to be a border on this, and so, you know, how all of this will look once it's in a frame will also change how the composition looks when you're done. So you can always take one of your matting frames and hold it over it to kind of see how it's going to look in a finished piece. Now, I don't have on hand one to fit this size paper because this is new paper. Most of my work has been smaller. This is a recent purchase, so, but so far I can see that this is actually going to look kind of cool inside a frame, and it's going to have that whole abstract-y feel and just lots of color, but just trying to smooth out some of my little ridges through here so I can have a little bit more here we go. So see how we're getting that kind of washed out watery color look without it being too contrived. and still keeping the abstract look that I want. Okay. And okay, and I think I'm going to add in a little bit more of that orange, the Bellini orange. Right down here. And then come in with a little of the red. Oh, too much. That's okay. I can fix that. And well, since we did it there, let's go ahead and put a few of these little spines in here. We can come in and we'll fix it. And just keep working that until the ink stops doing its thing. Wipe some of it off. A fan brush would be really good for this part. But I don't know where mine's at. Probably my son has it because he is also an artist and paints D&D figures for people who like those games and stuff. He's really good at it. So, anyway. So, should be just this little kind of wisp there, and there's a tiny one that comes off here to the side. And, alright, so those little spines in. Okay. And same here, we're gonna kind of come in. To do some splatter Yeah, that's what I'm wanting. All right. I'll go in and clean up the eyes here, and maybe go in and splatter a little bit more of the clear isopropyl alcohol. And this is almost a very dry brush, but it's giving me a lighter shade of those bubbles, so I get that whole splashing effect of the water up onto the fish, like it's just done a belly flop in the pond. Okay, so let me close everything up here real quick. And I didn't show you this. I introduced the Brewery's fog, and I put in a few places in here where there was a bit more of this to counteract the black. That space black is really, really dark, and so I wanted a bit more color difference. Just an artist choice, I suppose. So now I'm gonna cap everything so that nothing dries out or nothing gets spilled. And I didn't use any metallics or anything like that in this. Purely my personal choice. Not something I really feel like it needed to have. Don't know where the cap went for this piece. This particular, I'll have to set it over here until I can find it. All right, so Posca pens, that was what I was talking about earlier, for doing some of your final details if you want. You can also use the art marker. I have, my favorite are the Ohuhu art markers. I have a set of like 250, every color in the world. And I enjoy those a lot, and find that I love both the chiseled end and the brush end. And I like theirs, this is off topic really, but I like this because this end is very much like a brush, like a paintbrush. So, and the chiseled end also is very stiff. So that's nice. But for today, I'm going to use these two and maybe a touch of this blue. So we're going to go into the eye here, and everything is dry. So I'm just going to come in here with my Posca marker and put the eye. And I kind of want to leave a lighter gray spot, just because I think it looks cool and gives the eye a bit more delicacy, and more realist. So here, trying to make sure the eye is circular, and go in And we will leave that little eye shine right there. And same here, a little eye shine. And I think, oh, there's that blue. This blue is just a touch. I just want to see how it looks down in this corner area. And if I don't like it, the nice thing is I can go back and pull it off, which I find it's a little heavy-handed right now. So I'm going to go back in with my blender pen and take it out. I didn't quite like how bright that was. There. Now, I like that a lot better. I'll go in and make that little part where the eye shine is going to be. Just a little bit. There. And then I'm just going to go just slightly around the eye and wipe out, because that part is going to be much wider and it will make the eye really stand out. Okay? And then what's going on with that right there? Little details. You get in there and you start futzing and realize, oh, there's something I don't like. How do I fix that? And then these blender pens, I love. I don't use them too terribly often, but enough that I find them necessary sometimes, not all the time. So I'm thinking this part is finished, and I'm keeping in mind, it's hard to tell, but I have the mouth of it under water, so you really cannot see it. But I think it's turned out nice, and I think it's going to look great when it's framed. So I will let this dry a little bit and then seal it, and then show it to you framed.